Hi, Seth. How are you?
Morning, Dandy Pooh. What's going on, buddy?
Oh, we're just killing it here. We have a question for you that we ask every year.
Yes,
Would you rather win the NIT or be one and done in the NCAA tournament?
NCAA. Not even close.
How about you were New Orleans last night. You lost in the play-in game, or you win the NIT.
I think you'd rather be in the tournament. I think you'd rather see your name pop up on the selection show and be a part of the big dance. Although I have to say, I think I have great respect for teams that do well in the NIT. The high major conference teams. That I think the 2 years that Scott Drew at Baylor has not made the NCAA tournament in this recent run. He's gone to the final game of the NIT. So that does tell me something. But I think you'd always rather be in the NCAA tournament, don't you think, Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I have a young team, I want to be able to win the NIT. If I have a chance to win the NIT with the young team, I think we've seen in recent history the teams that have done well in the NIT won the NIT the following year. I think that they've had good seasons. But here's the other one: Indiana choosing not to host an NIT game last night because they don't want Tom Crean to get booed. Do you understand that?
You know what? I heard you saying that as you're coming out. I actually had not heard that. I did not know that. So I don't. I'm actually down here in Atlanta. They played right across the street from our studio at Turner. I hope we find out today what's happening. I hope that the AD there, Fred Glass, speaks out and either puts this to rest one way or another, because all the twisting in the wind, it just doesn't do anybody any favors. I like it when they've done it at some of these other schools at Ohio State and the opposite way at Illinois, just kind of settle things.
Do you think Tom Crean's on his way out?
It's close. I would say 51-49, yes. I think they want him to succeed there. I do. So it's a question of, is he trying to get out of there, or are they pushing him out, or is both sort of happening, or maybe they can live with it for another year? And he's going to lose some guys this year, and there's not a high-level recruiting class coming in, so it's hard to see how the situation gets much better for him. But I think they want him to succeed there. I don't sense that they're hoping that he does poorly and get him out of there. But hopefully we'll know soon in the next 24, 48 hours.
Seth Davis from CBS Sports, the road to the Final Four, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Any outrage with the brackets, seeding?
No, I always have my quibbles, things that I might have done differently, but nothing, real outrageous. I still haven't heard a good explanation for why North Carolina would be seated ahead of Duke on the overall seed line. Now, you can make a case for, Arizona to be a one seed ahead of both of them. You can definitely make a case for that, but I don't think there's any real case to be made. Carolina had 7 losses. Duke had 8. Duke had much better wins away from home, and beat Carolina twice. So I thought that was pretty prohibitive. But overall, Wichita State seed a little bit low. SMU is a 6. I thought, they got kind of robbed, but they're pretty consistent with how they do things in terms of, valuing, really good RPI wins. So you may like it or not like it, but it's not the committee's role to change the procedures. It's the committee's role to follow the procedures. And I thought they did a pretty good job of that.
All right, but when's the last time you remember a 10th seed as a 6-point favorite over a 7 seed?
Well, again, it's there are these predictive models out there. Ken Palm is great efficiency side. It's really a great gambling side, is what it is, and that's just not their mission. They can only look at, if you look at Wichita State's wins, their best wins were over Illinois State. So what are you going to do? You can't say we're doing it one way and then execute another way because you think how Vegas is going to act or how the Sagarin ratings are going to be. It's just a different set of criteria. I think people often conflate that.
Okay, sneaky teams that could make it to the Sweet 16. Give me 2 of them.
Well, I was really impressed with Rhode Island. I know they would have a potentially tough second-round game against Oregon. Of course, they got Creighton in the first round. But Rhode Island is a team that started off the year ranked in the top 25, had some injury issues, lost a couple games to very good teams early, dropped out of the top 25, percolated below the radar, got healthy late, played better late, won the A-10 tournament. I don't know if Middle Tennessee's sneaking up on anybody anymore. I think we've one of those teams we've said so much they're underrated. They are now overrated. But I've liked them all year. Minnesota lost their lone senior in the Big Ten tournament, and Butler to me is one of those high floor, low ceiling type of teams. So Middle Tennessee basically brought back its whole team last year and added their leading scorer did not play on the team that beat Michigan State last year.
Seth, remember
so
that the ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the roof. The floor is the hardwood. And the
floor is the basement.
Life is good.
Yeah, the floor is the basement. I think we get confused when people say, "Oh, this is wide open." You have a lot of teams who can win it. And my point is, do we really have that many teams who can win 6 games? Because it feels like it's wide open. If this was one and done, how many teams could win it? But how many teams do you think can win it? Because you have to win 6.
Well, the picture of the dominant team, a clear favorite, like I'll take that team, you take the field, that happens like once every 8 years. That is the aberration. This is more normal, where it might be wide open, but you don't have that many teams in there. I think you have probably 6 to 8. I think it's something like over the last 20 years, Dan, 2/3 of the champions have been 1 seeds, and then there was 1 2 seed and a couple of 3s, and that's it. I mean, the cream rises at the end of the day. So, the idea that a team below a 2 seed, yes, it's possible, but it's very, very rare. So I think you're basically looking at 8 teams that are capable of winning this whole thing. So
if it was one and done.
It's a very typical year, Dan.
What about one and done? That if you were just saying, how would this team match up with this team? How many of those teams do you think could win a championship if it was just single elimination?
If it was but it's single elimination.
Well, no, I'm saying it's just if we. It's open to win. You have to win 6 in a row. But if you only had to win 1 game against, let's say, North Carolina, or 1 game
that
against
would be
Duke.
Everybody. That's the beauty of the tournament. See, any team can beat. Virtually any team can beat any other team in a one-and-done situation. That's absolutely. I mean, especially once you get past the second round with the 1 and 2 seeds. Now you've had a small handful of 15s winning first-round games, but beyond that, those guys, once you get into the second round, all bets are off in a one-game scenario. But those teams that pull off an upset, they've got to do it game after game after game, and they have to, they have to handle all of the emotional and psychological burdens, if you will, of pulling off a great win. It's very hard for a team. That's why, like, when they get to the Sweet 16, they usually get throttled because, for North Carolina, they get to the Sweet 16, everybody looks at each other and says, okay, our season's beginning now. If Florida Gulf Coast gets to the Sweet 16 again, they throw them a parade. So now they have to, keep playing great teams. That's why I say in terms of winning 1 game, anything can happen, but 6 games in a row, it's really, 4 really, really hard games in a row. Mm-hmm. Very few teams are capable of doing that, I think.
Single best NBA prospect in the tournament is?
Markelle Fultz. Oh, I'm sorry. He's not in the tournament. He's not in the tournament. I'll go with Lonzo. I read somewhere he's already better than Steph Curry.
Yeah.
But Jason Tatum at Duke is really rising fast, and then Josh Jackson will be the other one at Kansas. So it's definitely going to be a very freshman top-heavy draft for sure. But I love what Lonzo can do, and we'll see with that funky release on his shot, how that works in the NBA. But the NBA game is so wide open, the way he distributes it, passes it. He's a sensational player. So I'll go with Lonzo. But to me, Markelle Fultz should be the number 1 pick in the draft. Most people haven't seen him play. That kid, for today's NBA, the way he shoots it, he's going to be sensational.
I love Tatum. I think Tatum's special.
I think he's Carmelo without the baggage. Not that Carmelo had a lot of baggage coming out of college, but his game reminds me a lot of Carmelo.
He was helped out, though, I think, Seth, because there was so much attention on everybody else at Duke with Coach K's health. Kennard, you had Grayson Allen, and then all of a sudden you watch whenever they needed a big hoop, and Tatum has come up big, and he's getting better as we move along. You can watch the progression there. I think he's going to be a special player.
Yeah, I agree. And, of course, he had his foot hurt early in the year. And when you're a freshman, if you miss a week, that's like missing 4, especially that time of year. And then he came back, and I think they tried to feature him a little too much. And he had too many habits from AAU. And then you lose Krzyzewski. So, for everything that they've gone through, Dan, I keep referencing, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. Like, they haven't had their 10,000 hours. And I didn't know if they had enough hours to, work together and develop. But I think right now they're playing better than any team in the country. Certainly they can lose, but they're my pick to win the championship because of the collection of talent and what they've been through. And, of course, they got a fairly good coach there on the sidelines to figure it out.
We'll check in with you throughout the tournament. Always appreciate your time, Seth.
Love you, Dan.
That's Seth Davis. Love you. CBS Sports.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.